Hi there, welcome once again to Shorty on the Fly. This heinous looking concoction in front of you I call the Fugly Hare's ear. Last week at the fly fishing show I had a fella come up and ask me to tie him a fly that he had that was a chewed up nasty looking beadhead hare's ear. The wing case was falling off. I mean, it was just chewed up like you would not believe. But he said it was a fish catcher, and I believe him. So could I duplicate it? So this is what I came up with. It's a pretty basic fly until we get to the last step, and I'll show you a new technique that you can use in a lot of different applications today. So let's go ahead and get started with this guy. So I've got a number 12 nymph hook with a gold tungsten bead on, and we're going to go ahead and add a little bit more weight with some lead-free wire in 0.015, and I'm going to take 10 turns of that. And then just snap that off with my thumbnail, shove it into the bead, and then snap the back off as well. Okay, and now the thread that I'm using is really important in this application. I'm using UTC 140 denier in a rusty brown color, and the selection of thread is going to make a huge difference when we get to the end of the fly here. So we're going to go ahead and get that started right behind the lead, and then come up and take a few wraps over it to lock everything into place. And then I'm not going to snap that off the way you normally see me do, because this thread is quite a bit heavier. So I'm going to snip it off and then run it back to the bend of the hook. And then for my tail today, I'm using India henback, the natural India henback, which I like because it's not as bulky as using regular hare's ear fur. So I'm going to snap some of that off of the feather, like so, and try to keep the tips aligned as best I can. And measure that out to be about half of the length of the shank of the hook. And take one collecting wrap and then another wrap to carry everything to the top, and I'm just going to cover up the butt ends with thread like so. Okay, and now for my rib I'm going to use fine gold wire. I'm just going to go ahead and lay that in, capture it with the thread, and carry it back to the bend of the hook. And now for my abdomen and thorax, I'm using my homemade hare's ear dubbing, which I'm just going to spin a little on the thread at the time. Doesn't want to behave for me today. There we go. Gotta stay with it. And this is the way I make this is I cut the fur off of the hare's mask, put it in a Ziploc bag, and poke a couple of holes in the bag, and then hit it with some canned air like you would for you use for cleaning off a keyboard, and that mixes it up really nicely. All right, now go ahead and start wrapping forward, and yeah, it's going to be all unkempt and nasty looking. That's kind of characteristic of a hare's ear. And get just a little bit more there. We want that buggy looking appearance. This is not a neat situation by any stretch of the imagination. Let me cover that up a little bit better. There we go. And I'm going to take 5 wraps of my wire, and then capture it, and I'm just going to wiggle that off. Oop, didn't come. Try again. There we go. Okay. So now, yeah, that's the way it's supposed to look. Don't worry about it. The next step is the technique that I wanted to show you today, and let's just hope that things work the way I want them to. I'm taking my bobbin and I'm going to spin it counterclockwise. And what that's going to do is flatten out my thread. At least I hope it will. Yeah, we did. There we go. Now, if you can see how that, I'm laying it right up against my finger, and you can see how that's flattened out. And I'm going to come in with a bodkin and split it. Okay? See how I have it split and I'm holding it with my index finger. And now I'm going to come in and just touch one side of the thread with some dubbing wax. And then what we do is take little wisps, little slips of the dubbing, lay it in there, right up against the piece of thread that you have with the wax on it. It doesn't want to cooperate. It's sticking to my finger. Come on, get in there. There we go. Okay, and I'm making this about 2.5, 3 inches long. And now that I've got everything in there, let me see if I can back that off. You can see how I have it. And now I'm going to spin my bobbin clockwise. Now it's spinning under my hand right now because I'm hanging on to the thread at the bottom, but when I let go, you'll see it. Okay, that's what you're looking for right there. Okay. Now, I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping it, and I'm going to sweep it back like we would do with a soft hackle. Okay? And there we are. And that is exactly what I'm looking for. Except for the one, there we go. Okay? It's a meaty looking, nasty looking little situation. We'll just come in here and whip finish. And there it is. Now that technique is not difficult, but it's key that you use the correct thread, because if you try to use like uni thread or even Danville will sometimes allow you to do that, but the UTC is really the best thread for that because it's floss-like and it allows you to flatten it out and get your bodkin point in there and split it really nicely. So there it is, the Fugly Hare's here. Go practice your split thread technique and tie some up. Let me know how you make out. I bid you peace.